Something begins to shift quietly after the age of 30, often before anyone gives you language for it, and it shows up not as a dramatic breakdown, but as a subtle sense that your body is no longer responding the way it used to, that your energy feels thinner by the afternoon, that sleep no longer restores you fully, and that effort seems to yield different results than it once did. Many women blame themselves at first, assuming they are doing something wrong or lacking discipline, yet this internal questioning misses a deeper truth that deserves compassion and understanding. The body is not betraying you and it is not failing you. It is communicating. After 30, your body begins a long, intelligent transition that is rooted in biology, guided by hormones, and influenced by the life you live every single day. Hormones are not just chemical messengers floating invisibly through your bloodstream. They are conductors of an orchestra that includes your metabolism, your mood, your sleep, your immune system, and even how resilient you feel when facing stress. When this orchestra starts to change tempo, the music of your daily life changes with it. And without awareness, it can feel confusing and even frightening. Inspired by the work of physicians like Dr. Felice Gersh, who emphasizes that women's health is a dynamic, whole-body conversation rather than a collection of isolated symptoms, we can begin to see these changes not as problems to fear, but as signals inviting deeper care. Estrogen and progesterone do not simply disappear overnight, yet their rhythms begin to shift in ways that affect how cells respond to insulin, how the brain processes emotion, and how the body stores or releases energy. Cortisol, the hormone that helps you respond to stress, may stay elevated longer than it once did, quietly draining vitality even when life looks manageable on the surface. Insulin sensitivity can change subtly, making weight management feel more difficult despite consistent habits, which can create frustration and self-doubt if the underlying cause remains unseen. What makes this stage of life especially challenging is that these hormonal changes rarely announce themselves clearly. Instead, they whisper through restless nights, unexplained irritability, brain fog, and a sense that your internal balance has shifted. The modern world often tells women to push harder, optimize more, and override discomfort. Yet doing so without listening to the body's hormonal language can deepen imbalance rather than restore harmony. Dr. Felice Gersh often reminds us that hormones respond to lifestyle, circadian rhythms, nourishment, and stress, meaning that awareness is power long before medication or extreme intervention becomes necessary. This is where the story begins to grow more suspenseful, because many women reach their mid-30s or early 40s without realizing that the small signs they have been ignoring are actually early warnings, not of illness, but of a system asking for recalibration. The danger is not in the hormonal shift itself, which is natural, but in misunderstanding it and continuing patterns that no longer serve the body's evolving needs. When sleep is shortened, meals are rushed, sunlight is scarce, and stress becomes constant background noise, hormonal communication becomes distorted, and the body adapts in ways that prioritize survival over vitality. You may notice that motivation fluctuates, that emotions feel closer to the surface, or that your body recovers more slowly, and none of this means you are weak. It means your biology is responding intelligently to its environment. This phase of life holds a powerful paradox, because within these changes lies an opportunity most people never talk about, the chance to build a deeper relationship with your body than you ever had in your 20s. Instead of seeing hormones as enemies or mysterious forces beyond control, you can begin to see them as messengers carrying precise information about what supports you and what drains you. Awareness does not mean perfection, and balance does not mean rigidity. It means learning to work with your body rather than against it. As this journey unfolds, there is more beneath the surface than meets the eye, because the choices you make during this window can influence how you feel not just next year but decades from now. And what seems minor today can quietly shape long-term health in ways that will soon become impossible to ignore. As this internal transformation continues, the story deepens, because what feels like a collection of small inconveniences is actually part of a larger physiological recalibration that deserves attention before it becomes overwhelming. Hormones after 30 do not simply decline, they renegotiate their relationships with every system in your body, and this renegotiation can feel unsettling when you are not prepared for it. Estrogen, for example, plays a role far beyond reproduction, influencing brain chemistry, blood vessel health, skin elasticity, and even how your cells generate energy. When its patterns begin to fluctuate, the brain may become more sensitive to stress, emotions may feel less predictable, and the nervous system can shift toward a more vigilant state. Progesterone, often described as a calming hormone, may no longer rise as reliably, which can subtly affect sleep quality and emotional steadiness. Cortisol, meant to rise and fall with the natural rhythm of day and night, may remain elevated when life demands constant alertness, silently exhausting the body's reserves. Insulin, the hormone responsible for moving glucose into cells, may lose some of its efficiency, causing the body to store energy differently and leading many women to feel as though their metabolism has suddenly slowed. What makes this phase especially complex is that these changes interact with one another, creating ripple effects that are not immediately obvious. You might sleep poorly and feel anxious, not realizing that disrupted circadian rhythms are influencing cortisol, which then affects insulin, which in turn impacts energy and mood. Inspired by integrative thinkers like Dr. Felice Gersh, who consistently highlights that women's health must be understood as an interconnected system rather than isolated symptoms, we begin to see why quick fixes rarely work. This is the moment in the journey where suspense builds, because many women reach a crossroads without realizing it. On one path lies awareness, adaptation, and long-term resilience, while on the other lies denial, self-blame, and the gradual accumulation of symptoms that feel increasingly difficult to reverse. The unsettling truth is that the body will always adapt, but it adapts based on the signals it receives. When nourishment is inconsistent, stress is chronic, and rest is treated as optional, the body prioritizes survival, not vitality, and the shift may not become obvious until fatigue, weight changes, or emotional burnout feel impossible to ignore. There is often a moment, quiet but powerful, when a woman realizes that pushing harder no longer works, that discipline alone cannot override biology, and that listening may be more effective than forcing. This realization can feel uncomfortable because it challenges deeply ingrained beliefs about productivity, worth, and control. Yet within this discomfort lies an invitation to redefine strength, not as endurance at any cost, but as responsiveness to the body's evolving needs. Hormonal health after 30 is not about chasing youth or perfection. It is about creating an internal environment where the body feels safe enough to function optimally. Safety, at a biological level, is influenced by regular sleep, balanced blood sugar, meaningful movement, and emotional regulation, all of which send calming signals to the nervous system. When the nervous system feels supported, hormones communicate more effectively, and the body shifts out of constant defense mode. The suspense intensifies here because the stakes are higher than most people realize. Ignored hormonal signals can quietly contribute to inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and long-term health challenges, while early awareness can dramatically alter the trajectory of aging. This is not about fear, but about respect for the body's intelligence. Many women are surprised to learn that small, consistent lifestyle changes can have profound hormonal effects, often more powerful than drastic interventions introduced too late. Light exposure in the morning can reset circadian rhythms, improving sleep and cortisol balance. Protein-rich meals can stabilize blood sugar, supporting insulin sensitivity and sustained energy. Mindful stress reduction can lower cortisol, indirectly supporting estrogen and progesterone balance. These are not trendy hacks. They are biological fundamentals that align with how the human body evolved. Dr. Felice Gersh often emphasizes that honoring natural rhythms is one of the most overlooked yet powerful tools in women's health, especially during the years when hormonal patterns begin to change. The tension in this phase of life arises from the contrast between how society expects women to function and how their biology actually works. Productivity culture rarely acknowledges cyclical needs, rest, or recovery, yet the body insists on them. When you begin to honor these needs, there may be resistance, both internally and externally, but this resistance is often a sign that you are challenging patterns that no longer serve you. The turning point comes when you recognize that feeling different after 30 is not a flaw to correct, but a message to interpret. A message that, when understood, can guide you toward a more sustainable, empowered relationship with your health and with yourself. As this understanding settles in, the final phase of this journey unfolds not with fear, but with clarity, because awareness transforms confusion into choice and uncertainty into direction. What once felt like a loss of control begins to reveal itself as a deeper invitation to lead your health consciously, rather than reactively. The body after 30 is not closing doors. It is asking for alignment. When you begin to listen closely, you realize that many of the signals you once tried to silence were actually guiding you toward balance all along. Fatigue was not laziness, but a request for restoration. Mood shifts were not weakness, but information about unmet needs. Changes in weight or sleep were not failures, but adaptive responses to internal chemistry shaped by years of living, working, and coping. This is where empowerment replaces anxiety, because knowledge allows you to respond with intention instead of frustration. Hormones thrive on consistency, nourishment, and safety, and when these elements are restored, the body often responds with remarkable resilience. This does not mean that every symptom disappears overnight, but it does mean that the body remembers how to regulate when given the right conditions. Inspired by the holistic philosophy echoed by Dr. Felice Gersh, who consistently reminds women that the body is designed to heal and recalibrate when supported rather than punished, this stage becomes one of collaboration rather than conflict. The suspense that once surrounded hormonal change now resolves into a deeper truth. The future of your health is not determined solely by age, but by how early and how compassionately you respond to what your body is telling you. This realization carries weight because it reframes aging not as decline, but as evolution. The choices you make in your 30s and 40s quietly influence how you will feel in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, shaping energy levels, metabolic health, emotional stability, and overall quality of life. There is power in understanding that prevention is not dramatic or extreme. It is often gentle, repetitive, and grounded in respect for biological rhythms. When sleep becomes protected rather than sacrificed, hormones regain their natural cadence. When meals are balanced rather than rushed, blood sugar stabilizes and energy becomes more consistent. When movement is chosen for vitality rather than punishment, stress hormones soften and the nervous system relaxes. When emotional boundaries are honored, cortisol no longer dominates the internal landscape. These shifts may seem simple, yet they accumulate into profound physiological change over time. The suspense of the unknown dissolves as patterns emerge, and with them comes confidence. You begin to trust your body again, not because it behaves exactly as it did at 25, but because you understand how it works now. This trust changes everything, influencing how you approach work, relationships, and self-care. Instead of chasing external validation, you develop internal awareness. Instead of forcing productivity, you cultivate sustainable energy. Instead of fearing hormonal change, you work with it. The most important resolution of this journey is realizing that hormonal balance is not about control, but about partnership. The body responds best when it feels heard, supported, and respected. Dr. Felice Gersh often emphasizes that women's health is not a series of isolated events, but a continuous story shaped by daily choices. And this perspective allows you to step into the next chapters of life with confidence rather than apprehension. When you stop seeing symptoms as enemies and start seeing them as communication, your relationship with your body transforms. You no longer feel at war with yourself, and this internal peace has ripple effects that extend far beyond physical health. Emotional resilience strengthens, mental clarity improves, and a quiet sense of stability begins to replace constant self-monitoring. The body becomes a trusted ally again, and this alliance supports not just longevity, but vitality. The final realization is both simple and profound. Feeling different after 30 is not a problem to fix, but a signal to evolve. When you honor that signal early, you create a foundation that supports you through every future transition with greater ease and confidence. This is not about perfection or rigid routines, but about awareness, consistency, and compassion applied over time. Your body is not asking for more effort, it is asking for wiser care. By listening now, you give yourself the gift of long-term health, emotional balance, and a deeper sense of connection to your own biology. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.